Light the Fuse. Light the Fuses, yeah, New York. That's my new.
Wow.
You like it?
Yeah. No.
No, okay. Well, that's okay. I'm just trying to keep things lively. You know?
Yeah, no. We gotta. It's hard to come up with something new every week.
We're on this is episode 90, Charles.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow.
We've been doing this.
Only 10 episodes left, and we've got some interviews on the books right now that I don't want to jinx.
Yeah.
But we're very excited about some of the people we're talking to in the next couple weeks. Knock on wood, if they happen. So these episodes leading up to 100, and we're really hoping 100 itself will be very special as well. Yeah. So stay tuned.
It'll be worth it.
Stuff. Yes.
What I was going to say was that I just got the renewal notice for our domain, our website. So I think this is the second or third time. So, I mean, this is a real industry we got going on here.
Yeah.
This is a real machine. We employ dozens of people.
No, do we?
Working round the clock.
Who's that?
No, nobody. Just us.
It would be great to have an intern or two.
I was thinking about.
There are other people who have podcasts, or they have, Patrick Willems.
Yeah,
has
I'm going to reach out to
interns.
Patrick and ask about his intern.
You got some interns you can share with us. That would be really helpful.
I just want to know what I want to know what the legal and tax breakdowns are. So we'll get that from him.
Yeah, well, we're not making a profit.
No,
that's for sure.
We're running at a loss.
But we're learning a lot. We're having a lot of fun, and
spending a lot of time together.
Yeah, and this is an amazing passion project that I'm excited about.
Good.
Are you?
I love this. I mean, this is something I look forward to. I think we have creative jobs, but sometimes they get a little monotonous, and this is always something fun. It's always unexpected. Mm-hmm. We never know what we're going to get from these interviews. We certainly didn't know what we were going to get from this interview with John Knoll.
Right. I kind of see it as like Mission Impossible film school.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
Mission
it is.
Mission Impossible sleepaway camp that our families hate because it takes us away from them, but that's okay.
So before we get into part 2, John Knoll.
What do you got?
I got a couple things I want to bring up.
All right.
One, my brother came to visit, my oldest brother.
I saw this on the movie log.
I have 2 older brothers, and he was just there for a couple nights, and the first night we were flipping through. I was like, all right, what should we watch? Should we watch a movie or something? It was late. We were just kind of relaxing. And I was like, oh, have you seen Mission Impossible Fallout? And he's like, oh, no, I don't think I've seen any of them since maybe the first one. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. So my own blood, my own brother has not seen any of them. So I was like, okay, we're watching Fallout right now. So I showed him Fallout, even though he hadn't seen 4, 5, 6, or 3, which sets up Fallout in a lot of ways. So I think maybe 2, maybe 3 times during the movie, I had to pause it and explain to him who Ilsa was, who Solomon Lane was, who Julia was. But that was it. And other than that, I mean, he loved it. He was like, "This is amazing. He's like, this is what the James Bond movies used to be."
Right.
He's like, because then the next night I showed him Ghost Protocol. Okay. And he loved that as well. And I think that's maybe when he said this is like what the James Bond.
Yeah, this is weird considering he so strives for your father's blessing and recommendation, and that could be something that he could connect with your father.
Oh, you think? I think my brother actually connects with my dad more than my other brother and myself.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that this would be just another thing to kind of
another thing,
solidify that connection.
Yeah, totally.
I thought you were going to do the Al Pacino speech from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when he says, I poured a cognac, I got my cigar, and I had a Ethan Hunt double feature. That whole thing.
I was just excited. I got to show my brother 2 Mission Impossible movies.
Odd.
And he loved them.
Odd that you went in that regard. I mean, I think...
That order, I know. Yeah. Well, I didn't expect that he would watch more than one of them. Yes. And I was just like, you know what? Let's put on Fallout because this is the fucking best movie ever.
Does he know? Does he know about this podcast?
He knows of it, but doesn't listen to it or anything. Yeah. I mean, he's not really into movies.
I know, but I think you could do the Rogue Nation Fallout.
Yes. Oh, well, I told him. I was like, you need to watch Rogue Nation next, and you need to watch 3, and so he's gonna do it.
What did you say about 2?
I kind of wonder if he actually said he had seen 2.
It would surprise me if he has not seen 2.
Yeah, I think he did see 2.
It's been on TV so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge hit. So.
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up was, our interview with Barney Berman.
I've heard
which was well over a year ago, I think. Barney Berman, who was the Oscar winner, who did the makeup for MI3. And his legacy, his whole family's grandfather did makeup for movies back to the original Wolfman in the early 40s.
Right.
The documentary that he mentioned in our interview with him, Making Apes, which is all about his dad, Tom Berman being involved with John Chambers creating the revolutionary makeup for Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes from 1968. That documentary is out now, and I watched it, and I fucking loved it.
Okay. I haven't watched it yet.
You haven't watched it? Did you buy it?
No, but I will. I mean, I think it's $12.99 or something.
Yeah, it was pretty cheap. I think it might have even been cheaper than that. I don't know, but it was. It's on Vudu. It's on iTunes. You can buy it or rent it. And I watched it. I thought it was great.
He's in it.
Barney's not in it.
Okay.
Barney's not even mentioned.
What?
Yeah, it's sad. But it's his father. It's mainly the story of his dad and his involvement in Planet of the Apes.
Right.
And then all these other amazing makeup people who are in it. Rick Baker and you name an amazing makeup person, they're in it. Anyone who's still alive. Stan Winston's not in it, but his son is, and his son narrates it actually.
Oh wow!
I think I texted you in the middle of it. There's that actor. There's this actor who's in About Schmidt and a couple other movies. I've always seen him around. He's a really good actor. I saw him in this documentary. I was like, who's that? Wait, this guy? And it was like, oh yeah, he's Stan Winston's son. It kind of surprised me.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Maybe you should put him in your next movie.
Sure.
Okay. Great.
Anyway, I just wanted to get the word out. Okay. Making apes. It's out there. I don't know. I guess that's it. We can.
All right. Well, we're gonna throw it on over to John Knoll using Kevin's incredibly criminal reproduction of the plot theme.
Yes. Please alert the authorities.
Yeah.
Anyone that you know of to get Kevin in trouble now for this music that's about to play.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a child now, so he's got more to lose.
Yeah.
So I say go after him wholeheartedly.
Yeah, he's cocky as hell and he deserves it.
We'll be back afterwards to wrap things up. So you came back for 4. I mean, you guys worked on 3 as well. Did you kind of like poke your head in and say, "Ooh, I'd love to get back in there"?
Well, my friend Roger Guyette did 3, and I think he did a terrific job with it. I was doing something else at the time. I think it was it? I don't remember. Might have been Avatar actually, but anyway, I was working on another project when that was going through, and I was glad to see Mission Impossible back. And I think 3 is a really good movie. I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd actually been talking to Brad Bird about another project he was writing that ended up not getting made. But
what was it?
Was that 1906?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
The big earthquake movie.
Yeah, so I was really excited about that. And I'd been talking to him actually for a couple of years about that. And they were actually ramping up pre-production. He had a production designer on. They were scouting locations. We were figuring out how we were going to do all of this. And he made a pitch to Warner Brothers, I believe. And they felt like it was too risky a project with a director that was unproven in live action. That, Brad was pretty upfront that, well, this is an epic, so it's going to be expensive. And it's going to be long. It's going to be a big sweeping epic. And I think they got cold feet and didn't want to proceed.
That's too bad.
Wow.
I still think it would be a great idea. I mean, I thought it was a really fresh and original idea. It was depicting an event that hasn't really gotten a lot of screen treatment in an era, right around the turn of the century when cars were starting to take over from horse-drawn carriages. And that I think would be fun to show. And then, I always knew about the San Francisco earthquake and fire, but I didn't really do a lot of research until we were in that pre-production. And the reality is just amazing. With the chimney effect, the earthquake broke the fire hydrant lines. So basically, as soon as the earthquake happened and the fires started, all the fire hydrants didn't work because the underground pipes had been fractured. And so you couldn't put out the fires. So they started building to these giant 300-foot flames. And at that point, the chimney effect takes over, where the fire is so large that you have this superheated column of hot air being driven up, and cool air rushes in from the sides to take its place, which fans the flames even higher, and the temperatures get extremely high, and I guess windows were starting to melt in their frames.
Whoa.
And there was no way to put the fire out because you couldn't put water on it. And it was just marching across the city, and it looked like we're going to lose the entire city unless we make a fire break. And you look at the map and where the fires were and where they were going. The best opportunity for a fire break was along Van Ness, which at the time there were mansions, multi-million-dollar mansions all along Van Ness. And so they decided the only way we can save the city is if we dynamite all these mansions. I mean, all this stuff really happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. So where do you get a bunch of dynamite? Well, you go to the army base. You come to where I am right now in the Presidio. So they rushed over to the Presidio to get the dynamite. They don't have a lot of dynamite. They have a lot of black powder, though. Black powder sounds like, well, it's an explosive too, right? Let's do this. Problem is, it's a much slower explosive. And what had ended up happening when they started blowing up these mansions was they sent flaming fragments in all directions and made the fires worse. That was crazy. Anyway, Brad, I think had great ideas, and I hope 1906 happens someday because it'd be amazing.
So what did he say? Like, I've got to make a live action movie for them to trust me to do this. Let's go do Mission Impossible.
Well, after Warner's didn't bite on 1906, I think I just read about it in the trades that Brad had signed on to do Mission Impossible, and I gave him a call and said, "Hey, I'm interested." And we'd had this relationship from this pre-production on 1906, and I thought, "Hey, well, I have some history with Mission Impossible. I like the franchise. I like Brad. I think this would be fun to do."
That's awesome. We talked to Todd, who did a lot of the removal of the rigging and stuff. Was that like the chief challenge for you guys on that?
Well, yeah, we worked on scenes all throughout the movie, but the big ones were, big one was probably the Burj climb that Chad refers to. Oh, and I have another amusing story there. When we were scouting, we went to the Burj Khalifa, and I overheard a conversation going on between the stunt coordinator and somebody who was Paramount's safety officer, and she was a little freaked out that we were talking about Tom actually hanging off the side of the building up at 1,100 feet in the air, and talking about how crazy dangerous that was. And the stunt coordinator was saying, "Listen, if you fall from more than 100 feet, you're dead anyway. So it doesn't matter whether it's 100 feet or 1,100 feet. Might as well do it." And well, he's right. Like, it's no reason not to do it at the full height. You're not really saving anything.
Yeah, we found a really funny quote from Renner. Was it Renner who said he'd have time to make a phone call before he hit the ground?
I think he said he did a few phone calls on the way down.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's really Tom doing that up there on the side of the building. Of course, he has additional safety equipment, cables and all of that. And, some of the work on the show was just sort of painting out those additional safety cables and filling in windows where we pulled out the glass so that we had, cameras had access, and there was access for him to get in and out of the building.
Wow.
But yeah, at least half the sequence, that's him up at height. Then we had a section of the building that was built down at ground level for all the close-up shots of him with the gloves and kicking and breaking the glass and all of that was done lower. But when he's swinging around there, that's really him swinging around. Crazy. It's a brave man.
Were you there for some of that shooting?
I went to the Scout, but something that happens on a lot of films that we work on is because of the compressed schedules now, often there's work that has to happen here at the facility while plate shooting is going on. And sometimes I trade off and go back and forth. So Mo and Leo, who worked with me on the show, supervised the plates on that sequence.
We, in order to create the sandstorm, we read this thing that it was hard to make the sand show up on film, so they shot it on Super 35. I don't know if that's true, or can you talk about creating that sandstorm?
Well, one of the issues with the sandstorm is, a big part of the thrill of that sequence is the danger involved in trying to drive a car through a sandstorm with very limited visibility, and how dangerous that all is, and how he's navigating just from GPS, and he can't really see where he's going. Well, you can imagine shooting a stunt sequence with cars racing around is just as dangerous if you don't have enough visibility. So we couldn't really blow enough sand to limit the visibility as much as the sequence really was going to depict, because it would be just too dangerous to shoot. Somebody was going to hit something, and somebody was going to get killed doing it. So what we did is we used smoke, and that was enough to give us a base layer of atmospherics, but didn't limit the visibility to 30 feet or whatever we were trying to depict in the sequence. I wanted to have some dust and smoke in there so that there was a base to build on. But a lot of what we were doing in that sequence was just increasing the density and adding more so that it looked like you only had 30-foot visibility when we were shooting, you could see more like 100 feet.
Okay.
That's cool.
What other sort of were the major tasks were sort of tackled on Mission Impossible 4?
What about the Kremlin explosion? That was pretty big.
Yeah, we did that. Yes, we did those. We went on a scout to Moscow, and a couple of days before we arrived, this giant peat moss or bog fire started, and it was 150 miles away from Moscow, but the wind direction was such that all of that smoke from the fire was blowing over Moscow. So when we landed at the Moscow airport, you could hardly see 400 feet or so. It was super dense wood smoke. And we all got handed respirators, and we went on this scout to scout the area of Red Square and go up on top of the GUM building, where they shoot all those May Day parades of all the tanks and missiles going by. And it was really amazing, but the visibility was really low, and there's this super dense wood smoke, and we're wearing these respirators, and all the local Russians are standing without respirators, smoking cigarettes in this, looking at us like we're crazy for, wow, why are you bothering with the masks? But everybody was worried enough about just how bad it was for us to be standing there breathing in this dense smoke that we cut the scout short. I think we were only there a little over 24 hours. But and we decided we were going to just shoot plates there. We weren't going to bring the actors there. So after the scout, we came back and shot just empty plates in Red Square for when Paula Patton's kind of walking through with the balloon and all of that. So anytime you see one of the actors there, it's an effect shot where we've photographed them in front of a blue screen and we're comping them in.
So cool.
And part of it was shot it was in Prague, is that right, too?
Yeah. When you're away from Red Square, all the Russian locations are various streets in Prague. And I think we were using Prague Castle to be part of the inside of the Kremlin when they get inside.
And the car park sequence, I assume, was another big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the background's all CG and photogrammetry from Red Square, and the where Tom is running is we built that basically just a big parking lot in Vancouver.
Okay.
So that was in Vancouver.
Oh, that's you're talking about the exploding Kremlin?
Yeah, when Tom is running towards camera and there's all those explosions going off
stuff like
around him. Yeah, that was shot in front of a blue screen in Vancouver. We had that parking lot, I think was 200 feet by 100 feet or so.
Did you have actual cars on that, and were they actually blowing up or anything like that, or was it just
No, it was a flat deck, and there were a bunch of extras and stunt people around him that were, running and getting knocked over, and we were setting off explosions on the ground around him. And then he was on a wire harness, so when the last explosion goes off at the end, he gets yanked up into the air.
Right.
Did you notice a difference in him in terms of you worked with him so many years ago and then on this new one? I mean, did you sort of gauge that he's way more into the stunts now? He's full-fledged producer, all that.
He was fully committed. There's no question about that. And you can still see it in every one of these. He does some super ambitious stunt that's always staged in a way that there's no question that's him doing it.
Right. What about the automated parking garage at the end?
Yeah, that was another big sequence that we worked on. And that's actually specifically one of the things I was referring to when I would say that Tom we would rehearse a bunch, get the shot all figured out, and then Tom would watch the last couple of rehearsals and then just go in and just nail it perfectly. Because a number of the shots that were in that parking garage sequence, Brad, because of his animation background, is very keenly aware of compositions and really cares a lot about how shots are designed and how they flow, because that's really his background. And so a lot of the shots in that garage had very specific camera choreography in them that Brad felt really strongly about, and so those were the ones that it would take us 2-3 hours of rigging and rehearsal to kind of get right. So the camera's up here and it's dropping down here as we're pushing in on this while Tom makes the jump and then lands on the car, and and it took a while before we got right. Yeah, that's all working, and then Tom would come in and do it. Except he just really sell it.
That's great. That's awesome. What was the I guess the difference between working with Brian Depalma and then with Brad Bird on this? I mean, that's obviously a very different movie, even though they're part of the same series.
Well, describe. I mean, every director is different. I think Brad's got a wonderful sense of humor, and you can see it in the film because there's all those, wonderful Bradisms where, I remember where he's getting broken out of the prison in the film, and he looks up at the security camera and he shakes his fist at the camera. That's pure Brad's sense of humor. But I remember getting a lot of comments from Brad about making really small adjustments to timing in a live action plate. So when, for example, there's this moment where Tom appears to have fallen off of the parking garage, but he's really kind of hanging underneath, and the bad guy gets surprised by the car lift coming up, and there's Tom and kicks him. And we had shot that stunt, and we were working on extending the background and painting out safety cables and that sort of thing. And in the reviews with Brad, he would, you know what, we got to sell this kick a little bit better, because the kick is, it's a standard stunt kick where, you've missed him by a few inches, but the images overlap, so it looks like they hit. And so I want to make it more forceful. Can we take a frame out here? And he was treating it like it was animation. Like it felt like, boy, these got to be the same kind of notes he was doing over at Pixar on The Incredibles. Where he was treating the live action like it was just as fungible as an animation.
Wow.
Yeah, Paul Hirsch told us that he watched the entire movie shot by shot,
frame by frame
with Brad.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible.
And would remove a frame here, remove a frame there, just to like strategically speed up pace up things.
Exactly, and that's the kind of sensibilities I think you develop when you have that sort of total freedom to shape things, on a frame by frame basis.
We've heard that ILM was going to do Rogue Nation, and then something happened. Do you recall this, or were you going to be the supervisor for 5 as well?
No, because I was doing the other Rogue. I was doing Rogue One.
Yes,
and that was happening kind of around the same time. In fact, we had a little bit of a dispute, and then a gentleman's agreement about the use of the name Rogue, I believe. The gentleman's agreement was that we would not do any advertising that mentioned Rogue, the word Rogue, within 6 months of the release of Rogue Nation. And then once that time had elapsed, then we could start up our advertising campaign.
Wow.
Well, we wanted to ask you about that because I know that your original pitch, when you first went to Lucasfilm with the idea, was Mission Impossible meets Hunt for Red October.
And that was your idea.
That was your sort of log line.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could talk about that and what from Mission Impossible maybe influenced this initial pitch for Rogue One.
Well, I'll say I was doing kind of the same method that George Lucas famously would do, where if you look at the original Star Wars movie, that's a combination of it's a little bit of Hidden Fortress, it's a little bit of the Dam Busters, it's a little bit of Battle of Britain. It's a synthesis of a whole lot of things that George liked in his youth that he drew individual elements from, but then synthesized them into a whole that didn't take too much from any one of those and kind of felt like something fresh and different. And I was trying to do the same thing with the story on Rogue. There are elements from Zero Dark 30. There are elements from Mission Impossible, from Guns of Navarone, from Red October. I'm drawing little bits and pieces from all of those, trying to craft a story. And one of the things that I really liked about Mission Impossible, as I mentioned earlier, was the whole theme of the team that comes together, a diverse group of experts with complementary skills that all work together as a unit to do more than any one of them could do. By combining their talents, they're able to do these amazing things. And, that's a theme that actually means a lot to me, because that's, the whole idea behind ILM in the first place was bringing together this, great team of people with diverse backgrounds to be able to come together to do something that everybody else said was impossible.
I love that. Yeah. Woo! That was a good chat.
Yeah. 1906.
We need to see that footage.
I had never heard this much about 1906 before.
Neither had I.
He tells a lot about what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask more questions. There were just so many things to get through. But I wanted to ask him, like, who was the main character? Who were the, what are the group of characters we're following in this movie?
Yes.
But it was, we had to get on to other stuff.
Yeah. It sounded huge. I mean, I'd heard from people that at one point every soundstage at Warner Brothers had been earmarked.
Wow.
For this movie. Every single one.
So it must have shut down pretty late.
Yeah. It was going to be a co-production between Pixar, Disney, and Warner Brothers.
Wow.
Yeah. So maybe it'll happen
someday.
I feel like Disney's reached out to him about turning it into a series for Disney Plus.
Oh.
That's the vibe I've gotten from recent interviews with him. But he loves cinema.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to see that on the big screen.
Yeah,
that's what I'd like to see.
That's what he says too.
Yeah. I mean, the technology's only gotten better since then, so I would hope that they could. I don't know. It would be so great. I hope they do it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what state the script was in though, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got kind of all of our questions answered about the Burj, about Russia.
Well, also about how he came up with the story for Rogue One.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that I didn't... You had told me that, I think, before we interviewed him. You were like, yeah, and he came up with the story. He pitched Rogue One, and that's how Rogue One happened, because he came up with the idea, which is such a great idea.
Well, and that the pitch was Hunt for Red October meets Mission Impossible and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Didn't really turn out quite like that. More of a war movie, more of a Star Wars movie, I guess. But
yes. Well, that was one that had a sort of a troubled production. Replaced some key creatives, and as happens sometimes on these big movies lately.
It happens. You're gonna be hired and probably replaced by.
You're saying me personally?
Yeah, you.
I will be. Okay, great. This is great. So I'm gonna get this great news soon. Hired for a big movie, and then in the middle of it, I'll be replaced by someone more talented and experienced.
Not more talented necessarily. Maybe just someone who has more experience on big projects.
Sure.
You'll be in the editing room.
I'll be honored.
You'll be.
They'll stuff me in the editing room and just be like, go in there.
Yeah, you'll be reproving visual effects. But no, I mean, this was a wonderful little section of his chat.
Yeah. It's cool.
It's interesting because the work is so different on each movie too. It's like you have this helicopter chase in the first one. This one you're like removing wires. You're blowing up the Kremlin. You're
right. Well, the Kremlin is such a huge visual effect.
Yeah, it's amazing. These movies are so complicated.
Yeah.
How many movies do you think you would have to direct to even have the wherewithal to take on a Mission Impossible?
I mean, I think that's kind of I feel like that's kind of the problem with a lot of where we are right now with the Hollywood, is that we're not making mid-sized movies. So you're jumping from tiny movie to $150 million movie, and it's scary.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a big jump.
Yeah, but you've worked with visual effects and you've worked with stunts now.
Sure. On a very, very small scale.
Right. But I feel like the fundamentals are there.
Right. Sure.
I'm hoping.
I can do it. Let's do it. Bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on.
Hire me so that you can fire and replace me in the middle.
Oh my God. All right. Well, we're gonna take a break from Mission Impossible, sort of, for next week's chat.
Do we not really talk about Mission next week?
We don't really talk about it. We talk about The Abyss. We talk about Photoshop. We try to get him to rank his hairstyles, which he actually has some interesting opinions on.
Right.
But
Hunt for October.
Star Wars.
He tells a great story about The Abyss. Yeah. That's next week.
Sounds like he kind of was brought in for Hunt for October to make sure the effects were good, because it sounds like they maybe got into some trouble with the previous effects house and they needed some help.
Yeah.
But so come back. You're at least going to get the rankings of his movies and the Tom Cruise hairstyles. So. Yeah. And
as always, please rate, review, subscribe.
Yep.
Writing a review wherever you listen is really helpful to us. If you are willing to go farther than that, then you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/LightTheFuse, and sign up. If you sign up at the bonus content level, we've done some great episodes lately. We've done we did our best of the decade episode, which was almost an hour. Mm-hmm. We've done a few episodes about catching up to all the casting news and everything that's going on with the new movies. And
we do chats, monthly chats.
Yep, we do monthly Skype chats if you go to an even higher level than bonus content. So check that out.
Yeah.
And you also interviewed me about Nasty Piece of Work.
Yes.
That one I think should be out by now. This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon and it was mixed and edited by Luke Burson. And also a special thank you to Jacob from Holland. So yeah, check out our Patreon if you're interested. And if that's too rich for your blood, you can spend a few bucks once on a shirt or a pin or a button from our TeePublic page, which is linked from our website, LightTheFuse-podcast.com.
You need to get a shirt because we're trying to do some live things, more, experiential things this year. And you want to show your Light the Fuse pride. You also want to let us know that you're not a psychopath. Or maybe you are a psychopath, but you still like the show and you want to wear the t-shirt.
Yeah.
But we want to identify you at least as a fan.
Yes.
A member of the community. So get those shirts.
Yeah, please do.
Wear them proudly. And we'll be back next week, part 3. John Knoll.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at LightTheFusePodcasts@gmail.com. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.